So, Art, I want to talk about a darker element here. And I remember when I visited the border many years ago, you told me about this, which is the children. There are 320,000 missing kids right now, according to the Department of Homeland Security. Sources within the El Centro sector say that an incident took place involving drugging unaccompanied children just 2 days after the one also happened previously. This was two kids from Mexico, 4 and 8 years old, being smuggled by the U.S. citizen with extensive criminal history who had a Navajo birth certificate in her possession that didn't belong to the kids. Sources say that she went through the San Luis port of entry on foot in Arizona. They were then picked up by a vehicle traveling north and stopped at the Border Patrol in California Wednesday night around 8:45. Sources say the kids were drowsy and had been given sleep aids. One of the kids is currently acting as a material witness against the driver. This is just one example, Art, I'm sure, of thousands. Educate our audience on the human catastrophe, the horror of the children involved in this crisis.
So, Charlie, I put that up a couple months ago on my own Instagram because I had talked to friends that are working in the area, and I can tell you that they've been seeing continuous amounts of people crossing or people coming through the checkpoints with children and various bottles of melatonin. So they're giving these children melatonin so they can fall asleep and remain quiet when they're coming through the desert, as well as remain quiet when they go through the checkpoints. That is the reality of what's happening. And why is it happening? Because this administration sent the word out and told everyone, come one, come all. So what they've continued to utilize is now they're utilizing these children as pawns so they can continue to bring people into the United States. And then they have the loopholes of the Flores rulings and everything else, which is a court decision that allows these kids not to be detained more than 21 days. They use this. A lot of them are under 14 years of age, and you can't really check and see, if these are their real parents. So all of these tactics have been continuously used by these human smuggling organizations run by the drug cartels in order to continue to do what they're doing. Every single child that's been missing falls on the hands of this administration. And you're going to hear it. You're going to hear it after this election. You're going to hear people say, they separated kids. No, the kids were separated themselves because the drugs smuggling organizations utilize these children to further get people into the country. They're the ones that are separating the kids, and it's being facilitated by this administration.
So Art, I just got to ask you, are these kids potentially being used as labor slaves, sex slaves? What are they being smuggled towards?
At this point, you don't know, because some of these kids, they've been recycled and they get sent back to Mexico and they get rented out to another person to bring them across. So you just really don't know. But look, you're dealing with criminal organizations that work in 168 different countries. 168 different countries. To me, in law enforcement, that's a red flag, and people need to start looking into what's actually happening to these children.
Art, you said that the kids are rented out, like it's a Toyota Camry from Avis?
Unfortunately, it sounds horrible, Charlie, but that's what it is. So some of these kids, if they're under the age of 14, somebody will pretend that they're their parents because they realize they won't be detained longer than 21 days. So they come across with this child. The child is told, hey, make sure you say this is the parent. And they rent these kids from different parents in Mexico. And they just continuously get recycled back into Mexico. And then someone else will use the child again.
I mean, Art, it's almost makes me speechless to hear that. And does anybody from the current federal government seem overly concerned about this practice to stop it and to say we're not going to put up with rent-a-kids on the southern border?
Look, it's really difficult, and I feel bad. Honestly, I'm one of those guys that I always speak up against bad managers each and every time. But I'm telling you right now, the management within our agency is handcuffed because of the issues with this administration. You're going to have people that are running the show, and right now they're handcuffed having to do so. I mean, you look at this photo op that she's going to do down in Douglas. I can guarantee you that the majority of the individuals that are the leadership within this agency, they don't want to be there. They don't, because they realize how bad it's been under these last 3.5 years. But what do you do when you're a leader in the organization and you're called by the vice president and you say, hey, we're going down there, you have to be there. And it's really it's frustrating, and I know it's frustrating for everybody else.